They say the night hides more than shadows. It hides the truth.
Welcome to Mr. Haunting Whispers, where real crimes, true horrors, and restless spirits speak through the silence. Listen closely, because sometimes the whispers are real.
Fear doesn't always arrive suddenly. Sometimes it settles in quietly, like dust on forgotten furniture, like a thought you didn't invite but never sent away. Tonight's stories aren't about monsters in the dark. They're about the things that follow you out of it, the memories you tried to bury, the places you swore you'd never return to, the voices that sound exactly like your own, until they don't. Ask yourself something before we begin. What part of your life do you avoid thinking about the most? And more importantly, what would happen if it started thinking about you instead? These are 6 accounts from people who learned the same terrible truth. Some experiences don't end when you walk away. They don't fade. They don't forgive. They wait. This is Mr. Haunting Whispers TV, where stories breathe in the dark and the things that stay with you are never finished. Turn the volume just a little lower. Sit a little closer to the silence. This is episode 9, The Things That Stay With You. I want to ask you something before I start. Have you ever walked into a room and felt like you arrived late? Like whatever was supposed to happen there had already begun without you? That's how room 417 felt the first time I entered it. I didn't believe in places having intentions. Not really. I was practical, rational. I took comfort in explanations. I needed them. That's probably why I accepted the job in the first place. I worked nights as a cleaner in a private medical facility, not a hospital exactly, more like a long-term observation center. Minimal staff, long hallways, identical rooms. The kind of place that smells permanently like disinfectant and quiet. Room 417 was supposed to be empty. That's important. It wasn't under maintenance. It wasn't restricted. It was just unused. On the schedule, next to its number, there was nothing. No name, no note, just a blank space where something should have been. The first night I cleaned it, I noticed the door was already unlocked. That happens, I told myself. But when I stepped inside, the air felt wrong. Heavier, warmer, like the room had been holding its breath. The lights came on automatically, soft yellow, not the harsh white of the other rooms. The bed was made perfectly, too perfectly. Sharp corners, tight sheets. Someone had been there. I checked the chart holder by the door. Empty. No patient, no assignment, just a room waiting to be remembered. I did my job quickly. I didn't linger, but as I wiped down the sink, I heard something behind me. A breath. Slow. Careful. Close enough that I felt it against my neck. I turned. Nothing. But the mirror above the sink was fogged, just slightly, like someone had exhaled onto it, and written in the fog, barely visible, was my name. Hannah. I didn't scream. I didn't run. I stared, because I hadn't told anyone my name yet. I wiped the mirror clean with shaking hands and left the room unlocked. That was my first mistake. Over the next week, room 417 kept appearing on my schedule, never officially assigned, but always there, always unlocked, always aware. The room began changing subtly. The bed indent shifted, as if someone slept on a different side. The chair by the window would face the door one night, the bed the next, and the temperature always adjusted to me. Cold when I was anxious, warm when I was tired, like it was listening to my body. Then it started talking. Not out loud, not exactly. I'd be cleaning, thinking about something mundane, groceries, bills, sleep, and a thought would surface that wasn't mine. You should stay a little longer. You're safer here. They don't notice you outside this room. I tried to rationalize it. Stress, sleep deprivation. The job was isolating. Anyone would crack eventually. But then, the room began remembering things I had forgotten. My childhood nickname, the smell of my grandmother's house, a scar on my knee I hadn't thought about in years. It knew things I hadn't shared with anyone. One night, I asked it a question. I didn't plan to. The words just fell out of me. Who were you? The lights dimmed, the air thickened, and the thought came back, slow and deliberate. I was forgotten. After that, I started dreaming about the room. Only in the dreams I wasn't standing in it. I was lying in the bed, unable to move, watching myself enter and clean around my body like I wasn't there, like I had already been replaced. The dreams followed me into waking hours. I'd catch my reflection in the hallway windows and feel like I was lagging behind myself, half a second slower, slightly delayed, like something else was stepping into my place. I asked my supervisor about room 417. She frowned, said there was no such room. I showed her the door. The number was gone, just a blank stretch of wall. But that night, when I came in for my shift, the door was back, unlocked, waiting. Inside, the bed was turned down, and on the pillow was my name tag. I didn't go inside again. I quit the next morning, walked out without notice, without explanation. But here's the thing no one tells you about leaving a place like that. It doesn't always let you go. Sometimes, late at night, when my apartment is quiet, I'll feel the air change, warm, familiar. I'll hear a soft internal whisper telling me to lie down, to rest, to let someone else take over for a while. And when I dream now, I'm always in the same room, room 417. The door is locked, the bed is warm, and I can hear footsteps outside, my footsteps, walking away. So I want to ask you something. If a place learned everything about you, your fears, your memories, your name, at what point does it stop being a room and start being you? I used to tell people I grew up fast. It sounds better than telling them the truth, that I grew up afraid. The house I lived in as a kid wasn't old by most standards. 2 stories, white siding, a narrow backyard fenced in by dying hedges. Nothing you'd point at and say, that place is haunted. But fear doesn't always need history. Sometimes it just needs time. My parents bought the house when I was 8. I remember standing in the empty living room, my footsteps echoing too loudly, and feeling like the house was listening, not watching, listening. The first thing I noticed was how sound behaved. Voices didn't carry normally. You'd call for someone and hear your words come back slightly altered, slower, softer, wrong. At night, the walls popped and settled like any house does, except the sounds always came in response to movement. If I rolled over in bed, the ceiling creaked. If I held my breath, everything went still, as if it noticed. I didn't tell my parents. Kids adapt, that's what we do. But then the house started remembering things before I did. One night, I was lying in bed trying to recall the name of my 3rd grade teacher. It was right there, just out of reach, and from the hallway outside my room, a voice whispered it, perfectly, calmly, like it had been waiting. I locked my door after that. Did you know old houses don't actually keep doors closed very well? The frames warp, hinges loosen, or maybe they just don't like being shut out. The voice came back occasionally, never loud, never aggressive, just helpful. It reminded me where I left things, what time it was, what my parents were about to say before they said it. It felt like living with someone who knew me better than I knew myself. Then it started telling me things I hadn't thought yet. You're going to drop that plate. You shouldn't go downstairs right now. Stay in your room tonight. It wasn't a command, it was certainty, and it was always right. I stopped questioning it. I trusted it. That's the part I don't like admitting. When I was 12, my parents went away for a weekend. First time I'd ever been alone overnight. They left me a list of rules, emergency numbers, the usual. The house waited until the second night. I was watching TV when the power cut out. Total darkness. Then the whisper, closer than ever before. Not from the hallway this time, from inside the walls. You don't need the lights. I stood up. The floor creaked. So did the ceiling. So did the walls, like the house was adjusting itself around me. I ran to my parents' bedroom, locked the door, sat on the floor with my back against it until morning. When the sun came up, I saw something carved into the inside of the door frame. My name. Not scratched, pressed, like it had been there for years. We moved out 2 months later. My parents said the house didn't feel right, that they couldn't explain it. I didn't argue. I thought leaving meant escaping. It took years to realize the truth. The house didn't stay behind, it stayed with me. Because even now, decades later, sometimes I'll be halfway through a thought and feel it finish for me. Sometimes when I walk into a quiet room, the silence feels expectant, like it knows me, like it remembers. And late at night, when I lie still enough, I can hear the soft creak of settling walls, not around me, but inside me. So tell me, and really think about this before you answer. When you remember the place you grew up, are you sure it remembers you back? If you're still listening, don't rush to turn this off. Sit with the quiet for a moment. Notice how the room feels now, not what you see, what you sense. Because silence isn't empty. It's where thoughts go when they don't belong to just one person anymore. Tonight, you heard 3 confessions, 3 voices that began alone and ended blurred. Memories overlapping, dreams bleeding, bodies borrowed without force, minds worn thin by sharing. And maybe, just maybe, something in you recognized the pattern. Did any story linger longer than the others? Did a name echo that you don't remember learning? Did a thought arrive fully formed before you finished asking the question? That's how it starts. Not with screams, not with shadows at the door, but with comfort, with familiarity, with the relief of not having to carry yourself alone. They don't take you, they continue you. So tonight, when you close your eyes, pay attention to the moment before sleep, that thin space where your thoughts soften and something else feels ready to speak. If you hear a whisper that already knows your name, don't answer too quickly. And if you wake up tomorrow feeling clearer, calmer, more certain than ever before, ask yourself one last thing. Who decided that for you? You've been listening to Mr. Haunting Whispers TV, where stories don't end when the sound fades and the mind is never as private as it feels. Keep your lights low, your thoughts closer than usual, and your sense of self questioned. Because once a story learns how you think, it doesn't need to follow you. It's already inside. Until the next whisper, listen carefully. You may not be listening alone.
You've been listening to Mr. Haunting Whispers, where every truth leaves a scar. If the story unsettled you, good. That means you were listening. Subscribe and stay close to the dark, because the next whisper might be for you.